A blessed day, everyone. This is Ana's Creation, and welcome back to our channel. Stay updated by subscribing to our other social media accounts. Of course, we have Ana's Creation on YouTube, and we have this one for our Instagram. For today's video, we have the second quarter grade 9 music entitled The Music of the Classical Musical Period 1750 to 1820. And this is week 1 of our MAPE quarter number 2. Now let's start with our introduction. This module was written for you to explore and discover the musical elements of the classical music. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to be able to recognize the musical elements of the given classical music and show appreciation of the classical music through listening. Let's have first our learning task. For our learning task, you just have to search for the 5 musical elements for the word puzzle below. Write a short definition or description about it afterwards. So here is our puzzle. Can you find the 5 elements of music? Let's see if we have the same answer. Here is my answer. I have the meter, I found melody, texture, dynamics, and of course the tempo. Now, let's try to define each briefly. When we say meter, it is irregularly recurring patterns and accents such as bars and beats. It refers to the volume of sound or note, loudness or softness of the sound is none other than the dynamics. Also known as tune, voice or line, is a linear succession of musical tones that the listener perceives as a single entity is none other than the melody. For the texture, it is how the tempo, melodic, and harmonic materials are combined in a composition. It is how layers of sound within a piece of music interacts. And last is the tempo. It is the speed of the underlying beat. It can be fast, moderate, or slow. Now, let's proceed to our topic discussion about the music of the classical musical period. We have our term sonata. Sonata is a word that came from a word sonare, which means to make a sound. Again, when you say sonata, from the word sonare, to make a sound. Sonata is a musical composition composed of a multi-movement from a solo instrument or a small instrument ensemble. The term sonare is applied to a variety of works for a solo instrument such as keyboards or violin. We have different kinds of sonata movements. The first one is allegro. When we say allegro, it has a fast movement. Again, allegro, fast. When we say andante, it has a slow movement. Again, andante, slow. And then we have the minuet. It is in a 3/4 time and in a moderate movement. Now, let's have the Sonata-allegro form. The most important musical structure that was developed during the classical era is none other than the Sonata-allegro form. Sonata-allegro form consists of 3 distinct sections, and these are the following: the exposition, the development, and the recapitulation. Let's now have the first one, which is the exposition. It's the first part of the composition in sonata form that introduces the theme. After that, we have the development, the middle part where themes are being developed. It explores the harmonic and textural possibilities of the thematic material. And the last is the recapitulation. Recapitulation repeats the theme as it first emerged in the opening exposition. Let's now have our second term after sonata, which is concerto. It is composed of multi-movement work, and it is made from an instrumental soloist and orchestra. This classical form of music is intended primarily to emphasize the individuality of a solo instrument and to exhibit the virtuosity and interpretative abilities of the performer. Here are some of the examples of solo instruments used in a concerto. We have the violin, the cello, the clarinet, bassoon, the trumpet, and of course, the piano. We also have the concerto movements. The first movement is fast, Sonata-allegro form with expositions of the orchestra and then by the soloist. The second movement is slow, has more ornamentation than the first movement. The third movement is fast again, finale, usually in a form of rondo, resembling the last movement of the symphony, and usually a short cadenza is used. Let's go to our third term, which is the symphony. It is derived from the word sinfonia, which literally means harmonious sounding together. Again, sinfonia means harmoniously sounding together. It is an elaborate musical composition for the whole orchestra, with generally 4 movements. If concerto has 3 movements, symphony has 4 movements. And here are the movements of the symphony. The first movement is fast, Sonata-allegro form. The second movement is slow. It's gentle, lyrically, typically in ABA form or theme and variation. And the third movement is medium fast. It uses a dance form or the minuet or the scherzo. And the fourth movement is fast again, typically rondo or sonata form. And of course, our next term is the classical opera. Opera is an art form that musicians and singers perform a dramatic theatrical setting. We have 2 styles of opera. The first one is called opera seria or the serious opera. This usually implies heroic or tragic drama that employs mythological characters. This was inherited from the Baroque period. Here is an example of the opera seria, entitled Idomeneo by Mozart. Now, let's go to the other type of the opera, which is called the opera buffa, or also known as the comic opera. This is from Italy. Comic opera made use of everyday characters and situations, and typically employed spoken dialogues, lengthy arias, and was spiced with slight gags, naughty humors, and social satire. And here are some examples of opera buffa: The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, and The Magic Flute. Let's now summarize everything we've learned for today. We have sonare, which means to make sound; sinfonia, which means harmonious sounding together; concerto, which is a multi-movement work designed for an instrumental soloist and orchestra. We also have allegro, which means fast; opera can be serious or comic; and andante, which means slow. Now, here's the difference between our 4 terms: sonata, concerto, symphony, and classical opera in terms of their movements. Sonata has 3 movements: allegro, andante, and minuet. Concerto has 3 movements: fast, slow, and fast. Symphony has 4 movements: fast, slow, medium, and fast. While classical opera, there's no specific tempo used in this form. There you have it. There you have it, everyone. That is our grade 9 music of the classical musical period, as our week 1 of our MAPE Music Quarter 2. I hope you learned a lot for today, and I'll see you again on our continuation of our discussion with grade 9 music entitled Performance Practice During the Classical Musical Period, which is week 2 of our module. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned a lot for today's discussion. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to be updated with our videos that will help you answer all your module learning tasks. This has been Ana's Creation, and I'll see you again in our next video. Happy learning! Bye-bye!